One, and you are live, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Good evening, members, colleagues, any members of the public listening. Welcome to this Central Area Planning Committee meeting on Wednesday, the 4th of November 2020. My name is Councillor Mark Hurd and I'm the chairman of this committee. This meeting is held under new regulations which come into effect on the 4th of April in response to the COVID-19 situation, and there are just a few housekeeping issues to run through. First of all, please could I ask everyone present at this meeting to ensure your microphone remains muted and your video feed off when not addressing the committee. This will reduce background noises and avoid any unintentional disturbances. This meeting is being hosted remotely, streamed live and recorded, and by being present in the meeting, you are giving your consent to being recorded. Members and officers, during each item, please use the chat function in the meeting to indicate you wish to speak. I will then invite you to speak at the appropriate time. Members are reminded that apart from indicating you wish to speak or that you have to leave the meeting, the chat function should not be used for questions or any other purpose. Members, when speaking and referring to the agenda papers, please reference a page or paragraph number and keep your contributions as clear and concise as possible. When invited to speak, please ensure also that you turn on your microphone and video. Now, if I may ask officers taking part in the meeting to introduce themselves, starting with Mr. Lee.
Good evening, members. I am Matthew Lee, Lead Specialist Place and Chief Planning Officer at Malden District Council. Thank you.
Thank you. And Michael Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman, members. My name is Michael Johnson. I'm a Lead Specialist Development Management. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Annie Keane.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm Annie Keane, Senior Caseworker, Development Management.
Thank you very much. And Kate.
Good afternoon, Chairman. My name is Katie Fuller. I'm clerk to this evening's committee.
Thank you very much. I think I saw another officer in there somewhere. Any other officers present? Okay, Kate, please can you now carry out a roll call of members to confirm who is in attendance? Thank you.
Yes, Chairman. Members, I will call your name in alphabetical order. Please could you indicate if you are present? Starting with Councillor Beale.
Yep, present.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Hurd.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Lagan.
Evening, members, everybody. I'm certainly here.
Thank you. Councillor Mays.
Present. Good evening.
Thank you. Councillor Morris.
Good evening, everybody.
Thank you. Councillor Nunn.
Yes, here, Katie. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Councillor Shaughnessy.
Here, Katie. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stilts.
Good evening, present.
Thank you. And Councillor Swain.
Yes, present.
Thank you. That's all, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Are there any other councillors in attendance, please? Okay, and any other officers in attendance that haven't been mentioned? Oh, okay, thank you very much. Agenda item number 2 is apologies for absence. May I have the apologies for absence, please, Kate?
We've had no apologies for absence. Thank you. We have a full house.
Okay, thank you very much. Agenda item number 3 are minutes from the 9th of September 2020. It's recommended that the minutes of the meeting held on the 9th of September, which are found on pages 7 to 14, are approved as a true and accurate record. I so move. If you wish to second that motion, please turn on your video, unmute your microphone and state your name now, please.
Councillor Nunn, seconded.
Thank you, Councillor Nunn. If any member wishes to raise any matter of accuracy, please use the chat function to indicate, and I will ask you to speak. Kate, can you advise if any member has indicated a wish to speak?
No member has indicated.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll now take the vote. I can do this in alphabetical order, or do you wish to agree by assent?
Agreed.
Agreed. Agreed, Chairman.
Agreed.
That's great. Okay, thank you very much indeed, members. Agenda item number 4 is declarations of interest. This is to disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interests, other pecuniary interests, or non-pecuniary interests relating to items of business in the agenda, having regard to paragraphs 6 to 8, inclusive the Code of Conduct for members. Members are reminded that they are also required to disclose any such interests as soon as they become aware, should the need arise, throughout the meeting. If any member has an interest to declare, please use the chat function now to indicate, and I will invite you to speak. Now, I see that there are quite a few there. Obviously, this application is in relation to, has been called in because it's in relation to a member of staff, and I think it will probably be taken as read that most members are declaring because of that. I certainly will, because I know the applicant. Kate, are there any other members who wish to declare?
Yes, we have Councillor Nunn, Councillor Lagan and Councillor Stilts.
Okay.
And Councillor Mays.
Councillor Nunn.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Item 5, I'm acquainted with the applicant, non-pecuniary.
Yes, yeah, non-pecuniary for me as well. Thank you. Councillor Lagan.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Yeah, just non-pecuniary, and I am declare it just out of transparency that I'm aware of Annie Keane from years ago when we used to train at the same martial arts club. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Stilts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Like you and Councillor Nunn, non-pecuniary, and I'm acquainted with the applicant.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Mays.
Non-pecuniary item 5, as I know the applicant.
Thank you. And Councillor Shaughnessy. You're still muted.
Yes, yeah. Thank you. Non-pecuniary, as I do know the applicant. Thank you.
Okay, and I think that's really the reason that this has come to us. Councillor Morris, good evening. Councillor Morris, you're still muted.
Sorry, Chair, struggling with the buttons. Would it not be an idea just to put into the minutes that all the councillors here would have a non-pecuniary interest due to the applicant being a member of staff?
Yes, I think that's not an unfair thing to say. I mean, some people do know Mr. Ellum, and some do not. But if you do, it is down to the individual to make that declaration. Thank you.
In that case, Chair, I'd just like to say non-pecuniary interest. I've spoken to the fella a couple of times.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll move on then to the application itself, agenda item number 5. This is 20/00824/house 46 Wentworth Meadows, Malden, Essex, CM9 6EJ. So we move to this agenda item. It's found on pages 15 to 24, members. Please note that a member's update in relation to this application has also been circulated prior to the meeting. In a moment, I will call on the officer to present this item. Members, a reminder that if you wish to speak on this item, please make this known by using the chat function within the meeting. I will then come to you in turn. Please make your points clear and succinct. Ms. Keane, could you please present the report, please? Could I just pause you there? Councillor Morris.
Sorry, Chair, I've put that in for after the report. If I can
Okay,
speak on, please.
Thank you very much. Okay, Annie, carry on.
Thank you, Chair. Planning permission is sought for the construction of a first floor side extension over the existing garage. This is the location plan showing the location of the site and the position of the amenity space of number 45 St Peters Avenue to the south-east. This is the block plan showing the position of the proposed extension and the distances from the rear of number 45 St Peters Avenue to the proposed development. This is the existing ground floor plan, the existing first floor plan, the proposed ground floor plan, and the proposed first floor plan. These are the existing front and rear elevations and the existing western and eastern elevations. These are the proposed front and rear elevations showing the location of the first floor side extension. And these are the proposed eastern and western elevations, again showing the proposed extension. This application is a resubmission of a previously refused scheme, which was heard at committee on the 15th of July for a first floor side extension and a part single story, part 2 story rear extension. These are the previously proposed elevations. These are the pictures of the site. Whilst this application has been reduced in scale from the previously refused scheme, removing the rear extensions, it is considered this application has not overcome all of the previous reasons for refusal. The application is therefore recommended for refusal due to the scale and design of the first floor side extension, which would result in a large, dominant, bulky addition, particularly due to the depth and width of the first floor side projection. It's also refused due to the close proximity of the development to the boundary of the neighbouring dwelling to the southwest, which is number 45 St Peters Avenue, resulting in an overbearing form of development. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Ms Keane. Now, under the Council's public participation scheme, we have received one submission from the applicant. And in line with the public participation scheme, I've reviewed the submission and an officer will now read this out. We're allocating only 2 minutes for the reading of this submission in accordance with the scheme. Mr Johnson, are you able to read this submission, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Submission from Jack Ellum, the applicant. Dear members, thank you for your decision notice on my application and the feedback included. I have sought to address the concerns raised by the officer and members of the committee. You will note the rear elements have been removed, resulting in no loss of my private garden. This also significantly reduces the scale, design, and envisaged dominance of the development on all neighbours. The depth of the extension over the garage has also been slightly reduced, denoting the extension subservient to the current dwelling. As previously demonstrated, the proposed extension has the support of all neighbours, and it is my hope this revised proposal meets with your approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Michael. Now, in a moment, I will be moving this recommendation in order that we can debate it, but I will refer to any other officers before I do move to that. Are there any other officers wishing to speak?
Not at this time, Chairman, no.
Okay, thank you very much. So the recommendation as set out within the report is as follows. That the planning application 2824 House 46 Wentworth Meadows, Malden, Essex be refused for the reasons as detailed in section 8 of this report. If any member wishes to second that motion, please turn on your video, unmute your microphone and state your name now. Other members will be given an opportunity to speak.
Councillor Nunn, seconded.
Thank you very much for that. I will now invite members to make any comments on the report. Katie, can you advise me of any members who wish to speak, please?
Yes, Chairman. We have Councillor Nunn, Councillor Morris and Councillor Swain.
Thank you very much. I'll take them in that order then. Councillor Nunn.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Could I ask the officers, please, whether the applicant sought any pre-planning advice for this second submission?
Thank you, Chairman. I'll comment. While not formal pre-application, some discussions did take place with the applicant following the refusal of the last application. The various issues were discussed. The applicant questioned whether any reduction of some form that could both meet his needs and satisfy the concerns of overdominance and overbearingness could be considered. Officers were not able to say that it would have any significant difference, but the scheme had been amended accordingly. Thank you, Chairman.
Through the chair, could I just come back on that, please?
Yes. Yes. Go ahead.
Thank you, Michael, for that response. Is this, when you say no formal pre-planning advice, is this kind of discussion, this kind of advice, something that would be open to members of the public then?
Through you, Chairman, I can pick this up. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Oh, Michael. Yeah, no, you're happy to. Yep. John.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It's not uncommon for sometimes officers to get a call from an applicant. No advice was given, no direction in terms of what would be acceptable or not. There were no plans tabled for us, well, me in this particular respect, to consider. It was literally a chat that the applicant would be revising the scheme. No advice was given, no advice could be given, because in officers' view, any amendment to the scheme that would be significant, one, would have to be formalised, and two, clearly wouldn't meet the applicant's needs.
Okay, thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, through you, Chairman, can I just make it clear? I think Michael has said it, but I just want to make it abundantly clear, both to obviously the members and any members of public viewing, that, you know, as members of the committee, we know, you've heard me say it 100 times, we're quite happy to give some informal comments on an application after refusal, but the council's policy is that any proper consultation through the pre-application process is a paid service. But quite often that advice, the informal advice, is that it may not be beneficial to enter a formal pre-application advice because the points where officers are, or the council is, and where the applicant are so far apart that there would not be any real betterment than what the officer's report clearly lays down. But yeah, for clarity, that is just a general process that the LPA does. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. Grateful to Mr. Lee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Morris.
Sorry, Chair, I seem to have some sticky buttons tonight. I'd just like to say that after looking through this, I was in favour of the first application. I noticed that it is D1, dominant, overbearing, demonstrable, blah, blah, blah. I believe that the applicant has successfully overcome these problems, and if I can, I'd like to propose that we give this permission and, you know, let the guy do it, because he seems to have ticked all the boxes now. I believe that D1 is a perspective, and There are no objections from any of the neighbours. The town council have recommended its approval. So I'd like to propose that we allow this one. Thank you.
Thank you. I have noted your proposal. I will call for a seconder, but I don't want to stifle debate at this stage. I just want to give officers an opportunity to speak.
Councillor Anne Beale, I'll second it.
Okay, thank you very much. The next speaker is Councillor Swain.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yes, as I recall, when the previous application came up, the main concern actually and reason for the committee rejecting it was the loss of amenity space, and that seems to have been dealt with. On the parking, I think the officers seem to be happy with the situation, although I would like to point out that the additional space involved in this extension produces 2 rather small rooms, and to think of it, to think of the whole development as a 5-bedroom house, I think, and relate that to parking spaces is perhaps not entirely appropriate. They will be quite small bedroom sizes. In fact, they don't need to be bedrooms. We have bedrooms which are actually computer rooms or something quite different. I wanted to just check that the window at the back of this development, is that a clear window or frosted in any way? Having said that, I'm not, I don't go along with the argument about overlooking on the neighbouring property. It's to the side, and having looked at the how the extension would look, I think the change in the roof line makes it far less what should we say, dominant on the local scene, and therefore I can't see any objection to this particular application and would support it.
Thank you very much. Before I ask for any more speakers, Ms. Keane, are you able to tell us if this window is frosted, please?
Yes, Chair. The window, as far as I'm aware, is not to be frosted.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
So I just wanted to clarify as well that there is no overlooking reasons for concern in the reason for refusal.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Kate, I'm pretty sure we've got some other speakers. I have got some names here, but can you just confirm which ones they are, please?
Yes, Councillor Hurd. We have Councillor Lagan, Councillor Shaughnessy and Councillor Beale.
I'm pleased to say that matches my list. Thank you very much. Councillor Lagan.
Thank you, Chair. So just to clarify a couple of things that were said, I think Mr. Johnson said that Jack, he said he had the support of all the neighbours. Michael, would you mind just confirming that again?
Mr. Johnson? You're still muted.
Apologies for that. Yes, the presentation, well, the commentary from the applicant was that he had the support of the neighbours.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Through the chair as well. This house is quite interesting. This whole road, isn't it? Considering why it was actually built and what it was built for. And the design of the houses are rather unique because we used to call them the wonky houses when I was a kid because the roof line is slightly different. So the D1 bulk and scale is subjective, and I find myself like my colleagues with the support of the neighbours and with the work that Jack's actually done to reduce it and maintaining the amenity space at the back, which was a concern. I'm like to support the application, but I appreciate the officers just confirming those questions I had. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Chairman. Just wanted to make a point in relation to planning law and case law in relation to support, lack of support, popularity, etc. in relation to a planning application. The lack or the number of support for a planning application shouldn't particularly weigh members' views when coming to determination of a planning application. A lack of objection should not be assumed to be that people are in favour, and actually the fact that whether people are in favour or not is not a consideration. That's a number of different pieces of case law sort of summed up together. But one of the probably the most important one, and I'm not quoting verbatim, so summing up, is that where the actual inspector says that the public rely on the decision maker to make correct decisions when determining a planning application. It may be they don't want to argue with a neighbour. It may be that they don't understand the impact on the development, or it may just be that they are assuming that the council will make the correct decision. So while we know comments from the applicant and we know the lack of any substantial objections from neighbours, this should not be a reason to ignore the potential impact on neighbours. That is what the case law is, and members need to be conscious that this was a key part of the reason for refusal last time that this committee refused the scheme. While there was concerns in relation to the impact of the loss of amenity space, that wasn't the sole reason. So I think probably best if Ms Keane can just show members the two schemes, just show the differences in relation to impact on neighbours, just so that they can fully assess that and whether the variations do meet the concerns or overcome the concerns that they raised previously. But I just obviously want to make members' minds clear on the value that they should be giving to any neighbour responses, and also just make it clear that they're clearly able to delineate the differences when determining this application. Thank you, Chairman. If you can do that, Ms Keane, that'd be great.
Thank you very much. Ms Keane, are you able to do that?
Thank you, Chair.
Puts you on the spot, sorry.
If I share my screen. So this is the proposed elevations, and you can see how high up the roof line it comes. And then if I
And obviously also say adjacent to the boundaries as well. Obviously it's in close proximity, and the height there is obviously
yeah. So this is the proposed elevations, and you can see it comes halfway up the roof slope on this side. And the previously refused scheme comes to a similar position. If I skip back. So this block plan shows the distance from the back of number 45 to where the proposed extension will be. You can see it's only a 10-metre stretch, so it would still have some form of impact on that neighbour, even though it's been reduced by half a metre. So, thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Annie. Councillor Shaughnessy is next.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I've read through this thoroughly, and I've looked at all the plans, and on 5.4.2, and also it's borne out by the proposed first floor plan. I think it's a 3-bedroom going to a 4-bedroom, because the original 3rd bedroom is being made into a shower room. Have any officers got a comment on that, please?
Mr. Lee?
I think Ms Kim, if you can show the plans, we can confirm.
Oh, sorry. Annie, can you help us out on that?
Yeah, so it would be a 4-bedroom.
Four-bedroom and a shower, by the looks of it.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Shaughnessy. And Councillor Beale, did you want to speak?
As always, Chairman. Thank you. Sorry, I don't know how to use the chat. That's why I stuck my little mirror.
All right. It's okay.
Also, I was going to quote from a previous thing. It's like page 23, whatever, but I'll keep it simple. If you look at item 8, reasons for refusal, if you look at it, it says resulting in demonstrable harm, character, appearance, locality, contrary to policies D1 of the local development plan. If you look at 5.5.2, it says whatever, all of that paragraph. Based on this, it is considered the application has overcome the previous reason for refusal based on the level of amenity space. The proposal is therefore in accordance with policy D1. So that's contradictory.
Okay, I think I could reply to that, but I might leave it to an officer. Mr. Lee.
No, Councillor Hurd, Chairman, I'm more than happy for you to reply.
Okay, well, I think the amenity space was a separate item. The reason for refusal was the fact that it was overbearing, and I think although it's just under the minimum of the amenity space, I think it's about 5 less than it should be. That wasn't felt to have the difference, but the reason for refusal was the fact that it was overbearing. Would that be right, Mr. Lee?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. That is accurate, but just for a point of clarity, just for a little bit more information, policy D1, which is entitled Design, Quality and Built Environment, has, it says all development must, and then there's the first point, which is respect, enhance the character and local context and making a positive contribution in terms of, and then there are 7 points under that. And then there are another 9 points as well. So just because the development is able to meet one aspect of the requirements of D1 doesn't mean it can meet all of the requirements. And that's what happens quite often. A scheme may have issues in relation to design, such as if you look back at the last application, there was an issue in relation to design and an issue in relation to impact on neighbours and an issue in relation to impact on the amenity space. So that's one application previously fell foul on 3 different points basically within D1. Obviously this application has come forward removing the rear garden, so there's no impact on the amenity space, so that aspect of that proposal that conflicted with D1 is no longer present. That doesn't mean that all of the other points within D1 have automatically been met, and that's the point, that D1 is quite a broad and multi-limbed policy. Thank you, Chairman.
Can I come back on that, Chairman?
Thank you very much. Yes, go ahead.
It's just a quick one because that's all I can manage these days. I think I would like Matt to basically send us an email with what all of the policies actually mean. I don't think I've ever seen a full D1 or whatever, so that would be really helpful to actually have a list of all of the policies relating to the LDP. Is that possible?
Through you, Chairman, I can get the link to the LDP circulated to members.
I think that would be a nice thing for all men, probably all councillors, but certainly all members of this committee. Yes, please.
Okay, thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. I think there are a couple of more speakers who I know Councillor Swain, you've spoken once before. I will come back to you. Katie, is there another speaker? Did I see Councillor Mays?
Yes, Councillor Mays.
Councillor Mays, go ahead.
Thank you. Miss Kitten, could you put up the elevation that basically you would see from the neighbour's house in, I think it's St Peter's Road? Are you able to do that? Can I just ask, on this side wall, if I lived at St Peter's Road, I would just look at a blank wall of approximately 5.6 metres. Is that right?
No, it's not. Sorry, were you going to answer that, Annie?
Yeah, Miss Keane.
And so through you, Chair. Yes, there are no windows in that elevation, so it would be a blank wall.
Okay. And from
just wanted to clarify that it's actually not a 5 metre high blank wall. Up to the eaves, which is the break point between where it says the garage and extension wall and the extension roof. It's 3.9 metres high, and then the roof hips back towards the main roof, where you will have the tiled element.
Okay.
So just to be clear.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Can you tell me how high the existing garage is in relation to this proposed elevation? So how much higher is it than what we're looking at?
Mr. Johnson,
Sorry, Annie, if you can comment on that by looking at the existing plans.
Ms. King.
Oh. I don't think it has the measurements on it.
Through you, Chair. No, I don't have the measurements on the existing.
So we go.
Chairman, I think, Annie, if you take a few minutes, you can probably go out of this and look it up, aren't you, on Uniform on Civica? So we can come back to that in a couple of minutes. If you can give us a couple of minutes, Councillor Mays, we'll look it up for you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I think the point that I'm trying to ascertain is we're going from looking at a low roof or no roof to actually maybe 3 meters above what is existing and it being a blank wall. I'm not sure that as a neighbour I would want to look at that, or I would, I'd be happy from a design perspective to be looking at something like that. So I just wanted to know what sort of height we were looking at. Looking out of a window of your house, which you'd look at every single day as a neighbour. And it's not just the neighbour that goes directly onto that particular property. It's also probably the next 2 neighbours down that would also be looking out on that blank wall. So although it looks okay, I think from the front perspective, I'm not particularly happy with it from a neighbouring perspective. And we have to remember, I think as somebody did say, that those neighbours may not be there in a year's time or 3 years' time. So we do have to think forward as to what, and that might affect house prices and stuff like that. I know that's not necessarily a material consideration, but it is something that we have to think from a design perspective. I'm just not wholly happy with it.
Yeah,
All right, thank you very much.
Did
you want to come back
can I just comment on that, Chairman? Yep. Firstly, I'd just, basically say that Councillor Mays, for the first 90% of what she said, pretty much was summing up the section that is the officers, concerns. Yeah, as in hit the nail on the head in relation to what officers are raising concerns on the impact of neighbour of an unneighbourly form of development, for want of a better phrase. But what I would just obviously, as she did say, but just reiterate for all members that house prices or impact on house prices, either positive or negative, is not a material consideration for planning. And I know Councillor Mays acknowledged that, but just in case any members didn't pick up on that, please do not take that into consideration. But the rest of it is what she was saying is basically what forms part of the reason for refusal and is the officers within the officers' report. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Mays. I'm conscious of the fact that we have had a proposal by Councillor Morris, which was duly seconded by Councillor Beale. Councillor Swain, you can come back one more time if it's not been mentioned before, please.
No, just on that last point that was being made. Obviously, most from the design, the drawings, half of the increase in elevation will be a sloping roof rather than a blank wall. I think the way the rooms are going to be used is irrelevant. But the main point I wanted to point out when you look at the street scene is that this is a rather individual property because of its location. It's not should we say, affecting the street scene in the way that it would if it was part of a whole street. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Stilts, you haven't had the opportunity to speak on this. I know you want to speak as well, Councillor Lagan, but Councillor Stilts first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do actually have the approved local development plan booklet that we were all given that gives you what policy D1 is and lays them all out. From what I was looking at from this last thing, it is right against the boundary wall. So basically, from the boundary wall up, you're going to see a blank wall. And like Councillor Mays, I wouldn't be happy with looking at a completely blank wall from my garden or from my house. I take it that the windows of the bungalow look out towards this blank wall. The other point is that I seem to be a bit confused. We now seem to have 2 proposals on the table, because didn't you propose and wasn't it seconded the officer's recommendation first?
I think we. Let's just have a look.
Yeah, that was correct. I think
was correct. Yeah,
yep.
We'll have to go with the first one first. Yes. Councillor Lagan, you have a final question, I hope.
No, oh no, I've got hours to go. Yeah, Chair. No, all it was is thanks. Just Jeanette's answered my question, so I was just a bit confused because we already had a proposal, but that's all done. So I'm belt up and get on with the voting. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Sorry, Chairman. Just for clarification,
yes,
I wondered if you still wanted to have the height of the existing wall on the boundary from Miss Keane.
Yes, please. Yeah. Do you have that information?
Through you, Chair. Yes. So the existing eaves would be 2.7 metres, and the ridge height higher than the existing eaves are 1.4 metres higher than the proposed eaves. Sorry, are 1.4 metres higher than the existing, and the proposed ridge height would be 2.9 metres higher than the existing.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's too much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So I think that has been well debated. I'm now going to move to the vote. So the initial recommendation, which indeed I moved, and this was seconded by Councillor Nunn, is that this is refused. So that was the first proposal. If that fails, we'll move on to the second. So Katie, could I ask you to take the roll call, please?
Yes, Chairman. So we are voting to refuse the application as per the officer's recommendation. Members, I'll take your name in alphabetical order. Please could you indicate whether you are for, against or abstaining from the vote. Starting with Councillor Miss Bill, please.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
For.
Councillor Hurd.
I'll abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Lagan.
Against, please.
Thank you. Councillor Mays.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Morris.
Against.
Councillor Nunn.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Shaughnessy.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Stilts.
For.
Thank you. And Councillor Swain.
Against.
Thank you. Chairman, that is 4 for, 5 against and 1 abstention.
So that fails. So in that case, we'll move on to the second proposal, which was Councillor Morris, duly seconded by Councillor Beale, that this is approved. Could we take the roll call?
Councillor Hurd, before we can take the roll or do a vote, we need the reason for approval from Councillor Morris for his proposal. Obviously, and that needs to talk to the proposed reason for refusal. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Morris, do you have a reason for refusal?
Benefits outweigh the harm. I believe the benefits outweigh the harm.
Through you, Chairman, through the debate, there have been no benefits of the proposal highlighted. The only benefits I could see from this proposal would relate to an individual, and planning does not, unless it's very special circumstances, which there have been none put forward by the applicant and none discussed at this committee, that my advice would be that would be a very flawed reason for approval. Thank you, Chairman. Ms. Keane, is it worth putting up the reason for refusal if you can, just so members can see it?
Yes, please.
Sorry, I don't have it to hand. One sec.
So if not, I should be able to put it up.
Could do, Mr. Johnson, that'd be great.
Mr. Johnson, thank you. Can we zoom in a little bit on that, please? Perfect. Okay, thank you very much. So the reason is that it would, by reason of its scale and design, would result in a large, dominant and bulky addition. Secondly, that by virtue of its depth, height and proximity to the boundary would result in an overbearing impact.
Through you, Chair. If we were to go to 5.2.6, it does now overcome the reasons for refusal previously in the previous application. So I would say that it should be approved as it's overcome the previous reasons for refusal. I'd also say that policies D1 are a perspective. And in my opinion, from my perspective, I believe that the benefits outweigh the harm. I don't believe there's any objections from any of the neighbours. I understand what Mr. Lee is saying about there may do in the future, but we can only deal with the application as it stands now and on its own merits. So I would say that this application has overcome the reasons for refusal previously.
Mr. Lee, is that okay?
Obviously, Councillor Morris's reference paragraph, was it 5.3? Mr. Johnson, can we just go up to that? Is that possible?
I believe it was 5.2.6.
Oh, sorry, I apologise.
I'll let you off this time, Matt.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Don't let it happen again.
I'll do my best. Okay, so obviously,
I think that's quoting the reason for refusal, isn't it?
Yeah, the current application to overcome the previous reason obviously highlights that. The only issue I've got, or slight issue I've got with Councillor Morris's reason for approval is it's twofold. Firstly, partly he said there is no harm, and then he's saying the benefits outweigh the harm, so it's quite conflicting. And then secondly, as I've stated, there are no apparent benefits. There has been no debate around any benefits of this scheme. Obviously, if this was in an enabling development, allowing 10 houses so you can provide funding for a listed building to be developed there, it's although it would be outside the settlement boundary and conscious policies, you might argue that the benefits outweigh the harm. We haven't discussed any benefits in planning terms as part of tonight, as part of this committee. And as I would say is that, once again, and reiterate, any benefits are solely to the applicant, and personal benefits are not something we should be looking at as a reason for approval unless they're classed as very special circumstances, which is something defined through case law. And the applicant has not put forward any very special circumstances that I'm aware of. And I could ask either Mr. Johnson or Ms. Keane just to confirm that I've not overlooked something. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, just before we do that, I think that I have heard that this was a subjective matter. If in the opinion of the committee that it is not overbearing in its scale, design and height, is that a sufficient reason?
Through you, Chairman, yeah, obviously it's a subjective matter, the impact on the neighbours. It's not something we can definitively state, such as car parking spaces or amenity space.
Yes.
And to a certain extent, yeah, if members consider that the amendments proposed have overcome the previous reasons for refusal in relation to design and impact on neighbours, that would be something. It's just for clarity, obviously, just when we make statements, obviously conflict, or when we say benefits outweigh harm, just need to obviously be clear. But obviously, when it comes to a subjective point, that's in the gift of the members or decision makers, which in this case is the members. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I have had several members asked to speak again. Mr. Johnson?
Yep, sorry, Chair. I was just going to say, if to hopefully help move this on, the following paragraph, maybe where members can glean some support for their reasons in supporting this application. And as Mr. Lee just mentioned, it discusses the amendments. The proposed ridge line of the roof has been lowered by 0.5 meter. The pitch of the roof has been made parallel. So there are some amendments where we are going against following a resubmission of a previously refused scheme, and there have been some material amendments. The, I suppose, subjectiveness that one may bring to the debate is to what degree do you feel that the amendment from a design point of view overcomes the reasons for refusal? And I think it's in 5.2.7, which is where members can find support.
Yes. Okay. Yes, I understand that. So what you're saying is with the amended application, which has removed the rear extension, lowered the roof line, would make a difference subjectively.
Well, in members' opinion.
In members' opinion,
obviously,
yes.
the reason for refusal was speaking the contrary argument.
Okay, without wishing to lead you, Councillor Morris, are you satisfied with that?
I'd just like to point out that any benefits would outweigh any harms. And the way I see this application, it hasn't got a lot of benefits, but it also doesn't cause a lot of harm. I'd just state that by increasing a house's size and therefore not forcing an owner to go and buy a new build, which we haven't got the infrastructure for, that could be the sole benefit that would outweigh any harm. And as there's been no objections whatsoever, I don't see that there's any harm either. So I do think it's a perspective point of view where there are not a lot of benefits, but there are also practically no harms. And so therefore, I do believe that we should be allowing this.
I'm not sure that's a planning reason. Mr. Lee, did you want to speak on that?
Dear Chairman, I think you just covered it. The fact that you're not forcing, for want of a better word, someone to move is not something that's a material consideration to be given weight in planning decision-making process.
Okay.
Unfortunately, planning is quite heartless in that respect. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Councillor Swain, you wanted to come back? I really want to move this along, really. But Councillor Swain.
One way of putting it is to say that we believe the previous reasons for refusal have been overcome, and the revised application is consistent with policies D1 and H4 of the LDP.
I think that might cover it, Mr. Lee.
Yep, through you, Chairman. That's obviously fine.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have got we've got that reason for refusal. I've got Councillor Lagan and Shaughnessy wishing to speak again. So Councillor Lagan, if you could be concise, please.
Yeah, no worry, Mark. I just wanted to add, maybe to strengthen it with Councillor Morris's permission, to look in policy D1 where it talks about respect and enhance the character. It does meet policy D1A in its architectural style because it fits in with the design of the area, and its detailed design features, innovative design and construction solutions are innovative. And also number 8, it also contributes to and enhances the local distinctiveness, because it will be distinctive in a very distinctive area. And just considerations to put in to try and help strengthen for acceptance. Thank you, Councillor Morris.
Thank you, Councillor Lagan. Yeah, that sounds very funky. So if you'd like to put that in as an amendment, maybe, I'll be happy with that.
Thank you. Councillor Shaughnessy, you wanted to speak?
Yes, thank you, Chairman, for allowing me to come back. Concerning other members' comments about the neighbours on St Peter's Avenue looking at a blank wall, they do actually look at a blank wall at the moment, albeit a little further away from them, but they're not looking at anything beautiful at the moment. It is subjective. I actually think that with the material amendments, those small amendments, I actually think this is quite a nice looking extension that does well with the original house. Beautiful at the moment. It is subjective. I actually think that with the material amendments, those small amendments, I actually think this is quite a nice.
Right. Okay. I think we got the gist of that. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah.
So,
thank you. I was out of sync there, Chairman, for whatever reason. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we've had the reason for refusal. So now we'll go to the second proposal of Councillor Morris, which was seconded by Councillor Beale to approve this. Katie, could we take the vote again, please?
Yes, Chairman. So we are voting to approve the application contrary to the officer's recommendation.
Which was seconded by Councillor Beale to approve this. Katie, could we take the vote again, please?
Members, I will take your name in alphabetical order. Please could you indicate whether you are for, against or abstaining, starting with Councillor Miss Beale, please. So we are voting to approve.
Why are we getting an echo here? I'm for, obviously, because I seconded it, but I did have my hand up and no one came to me. But basically, Councillor Mays was worried about the wall, but I presume there's going to be a 2 metre fence by that, so they're not going to probably see about 1 metre of wall, but I'm for.
For, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Having listened to the argument, I'm going to vote for. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hurd.
I'll abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Lagan.
For, please, Katie.
Thank you. Councillor Mays.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Morris.
Obviously for. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Nunn.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Shaughnessy.
For, Katie. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stilts.
Against.
Thank you. And Councillor Swain.
For.
Thank you. Chairman, that is 6 for, 3 against and 1 abstention.
Thank you, Katie. In that case, that is approved.
Through you, Chairman, obviously suggested conditions, which
Yeah,
I would advise members
subject to conditions.
Are the time, plans, materials, the sort of standard 3. Also, I'd advise that PD rights are removed in relation to the window installation of windows in that elevation, so they can't be put in the future to cause any overlooking. And I think that would be it, unless Mr. Johnson and Ms. Keane have got any suggestions.
Anything further?
No, you've covered it, Matt.
Okay. Anything else, Ms. Keane?
No, I think that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on then to agenda item number 6. Any other items of business that the chairman of the committee decides are urgent. The only thing that I would say, members, that this is our last meeting before the statutory annual meeting tomorrow night. We have had 24 scheduled meetings since May 19, and we have sat 12 times to consider applications, 13 of which have been approved, 14 have been refused. I'd like to offer my thanks for your attendance and patience during this very difficult period. It's been a great honour to chair this committee, and I sincerely hope the next chairman also enjoys the support of all members. I also note and thank our hard-working officers who often end up in the line of fire, and my great thanks also to the clerks whose work I will never underestimate, and they really do make things run smoothly. So thank you all, and I will close this meeting in the municipal year at 7 p.m.